this is long overdue.
Very long.
I've been asking you
I've been
about doing this, and we're finally here. This is technically the first episode, because once I get this edited, it'll be the first episode.
Yeah.
In real terms, it's the third one.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that this finally has come.
Same here, man.
And so just for a bit of context, hi, my name is Chan. I'm a CD at Creative. I'm a CD at Wrapped Creative, and this is my ex-partner Z, still a long-time friend.
Yes, and I'm a CD at McCann Joburg. Yeah.
And we go way back. We've got a lot of history. We've done a lot of work together, and also lots of pains and nice sweat and tears. And then that was also the time that our career had just jump-started.
Yeah.
Getting the hang of things ourselves and also the work. So it was quite nice to have that growth period.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I had it with you.
Yeah, man. And it was like, I think for me, one of the coolest things is also having someone who's got like the same like drive and work ethic made it so much easier.
We have lengthy conversations. Yeah, like the thing that we always speak about is like, you can always, tell someone what to do, but you can never teach someone motivation.
Yeah.
That's always, and when you go through the different career, or throughout your career, you meet different people. And there's also different levels of work ethic and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm glad to have that part of my career with you. So Ntoba Zisi, I always try to say your name
full name.
Because when I first met you, I think that was the first thing. I'm like, crap, like such a lengthy name, and it's like the Z and C in it, and getting it right was my goal.
No, with you.
So again, we go way back, and we worked really hard, but yeah, more than that is Ziz is a CD copywriter. How much of the voiceover artist am I allowed to talk about?
You can talk about it.
Oh, is it okay?
Yeah, no, it's chilled now. It's chilled.
Yeah. So there was a time where that we couldn't talk about this, but we can. So Z is also the voice of Steers. So that lends itself to being a voiceover artist.
Which, by the way, is an idea. Because when I remember about it, when we started working on that like interaction, that was an idea that you pitched, right? When we were working on it. Yeah.
We'll dive deep on that story. There's a whole lady story. And yeah, so when you're not working, you're also a part-time designer.
Yes. Part-time.
Could I say full-time pastor?
Foolish time.
Foolish. Definitely, don't excuse the pun. He is foolish for doing so much on his plate. Father, husband, and many other things. I think I've.
Yeah, that's them. Yeah. And Chan, you, mom, CD, art director extraordinaire. Also. I don't know if you're still working on it, but you were going into 3D design.
That was a COVID project, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah. He's a dad, a husband, and then are you still doing the 3D printing design stuff?
So I have a 3D printer,
but
I've done with very little. It just requires time because, I have passions for a lot of things.
Yeah.
I'm bored really easily, so I dabble in a few things. But again, the reason why I'm glad I did it, at least I know a bit more.
Yeah, about it, yeah.
And even now, like some of the stuff I work with 3D guys, the things they say, I know what
you understand.
It's because
100%.
at least I've played around with it.
In that world.
And I actually acknowledge how flippin' long it takes.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it work, they come there, oh, can you get this out in like a day or two? And
No.
You don't understand. And guess what the guy does? Yes, he does. Which makes it even wild. So, again, I always tell this to, his name is Yaku.
How's it, Jaku?
And I always sympathize with him. Like I don't think anyone understands
The technicalities, yeah.
But anyhow, so to explaining the concept of chasing lions, I, for one, always wanted to win a Cannes Lion Awards and any other awards that sits underneath it. This is something that creatives always strive towards. You know, it from what I heard, you know, like as starting as a junior, you always see it as a stepping stone to move up in the ranks. And Z knows how I feel about it. There is like a love-hate relationship with it.
Gosh.
So I think this is why the conversations, because a lot of things get unseen and a lot of things get hidden behind trying to achieve awards, the drive to get awards. And there are like some negative things and a lot of positives. So again, that's exactly why, you know, to do this talk, and, you know, I hope at some stage, you and I or someone else could, you know, dive deeper into this topic.
Yeah.
You know, there's always, especially as he's in it right now, but, you know, behind an ad, there's at least 50 people to make it happen. And that's not even including the people in production.
Yeah.
You know, like there's hundreds of people behind
just the
a
team.
30-second or 15-second ad, and people don't realize how much work it's put into it. So hence the title, Chasing Lions. And and let's see where this takes us. And because, you know, we're doing these conversations about people who had won Cannes Awards. My boy here had won a shortlist. So just to give you some context, Cannes Lions is kind of the pinnacle of advertising awards shows. It's normally referred as the Oscars of advertising. There's also others that are quite renowned. There's D&AD, there's
One
Clio,
Show.
there's One Show, there's local ones, which is Lurie's, and other smaller ones like Bookmark and Pindurings. And they kind of rank in a different space, obviously because of its
one, I think it's the global appeal, obviously, of the global ones. But also just in terms of, I think the other big thing is for you to be part of them, like a lot of agencies fall within some of those categories, right? And so the big ones, even locally, have a lot more agencies who are a part of them. So it just in terms of showing your ability within that space, that's one of the reasons why they stand out.
Anything in Cannes is
insane.
It's phenomenal. Like I remember, I'll give you my short story of my exposure of Cannes. But getting any medal within Cannes or any recognition is already
big shout out,
you
man.
Very high up in the recognition side of things. So my story is it's actually when I started advertising. You know, I stumbled upon number one. I stumbled upon graphic design. I didn't know what to do. And then coming out of graphic design, they were like, "Okay, cool. We'll go find an intern." Thankfully, with like good connections and stuff like that, I got myself into network BBDO. And again, I had no clue what the advertising world was about. I didn't know what network was, and as I went into the process, got hired, and I don't know if I told you the story.
No, I don't remember.
And then as the day I started, they were announcing their celebrations
of the shortlists or the wins.
Winning.
Oh, okay.
They had won already. So I'm like, okay, cool. So Rob McLennan was the guy who interviewed me, and he's like, "Yo, I won a Cannes Lions."
You're like, congratulations, I guess.
Like, yes, I was like, oh, okay, cool, that sounds cool, you know. And then they did this announcement on the first day of my job, first day of work, and they were like, oh, you know, and then Jenny Glover stands up and she does a speech, and she says, and I remember so clearly, is that people work their whole lives for a Cannes, and they cannot get anything. And the fact that they've landed on a gold is huge.
Something else.
It's huge for them, and goes to show that it's taken them quite far. And at the time, naive version of Chan was like, I don't know what the hell this is, you know. and I've already gone exposed.
Yeah.
Things like Can and stuff. So Can has always been on top. There is local ones like Lurie's. However, Z, his work is got a short list on radio, which is massive.
Yeah.
And I was surprised we already forgot like a Fever Dream release. So mainly I wanted to chat about is number one, how did it come to be?
Yeah.
The process of which it got to from beginning
To end.
to the end,
Yeah.
getting flighted, getting submissions, because that's the part where people
Yeah.
don't really see, especially the general public. So tell me what it's about. I saw the ad, freaking amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So there was a team who worked on the writing. Shout out to Toby and Tandega. And I think for us, so the toughest, right? The toughest part about getting any award work done is convincing the client that it's worth it, right? And so I think for us, that took about 4, 5, 6 weeks of
that's
just
sort of starting from
that's
the
just the
idea.
start, just the start of the idea
presented
to
to
go,
you.
hey, this is in terms of the team writing. So in terms of the team writing, that was about a 3-4 week process because we stumbled on the insight. We thought through the insight. And then we worked on a number of versions, right? And this is like when I say a number of versions, I'm talking about 12, 15, about 16 different versions of how it could come to life, right? Same ad. Because also we wrote 3 in that campaign, and so. In those 3, there's like 14 versions of each that were each developed. Some of it was canned. Then we brought in another one that had that with the same insight, but was easier, were a lot easier to execute, but were consistent in the thinking, right? So that was that, and we had reviews. I think every 3rd or 4th day with Loy. With Brett as well. I remember I even had one of those reviews in my car when I was going to go talk to university students just before that, right? So we're just reviewing all of that stuff. But we finally got to a place where we were like, cool, we're happy now to go talk to the client and present them to the client, right? Presented them to the client.
For the first time.
For the first time. They were like, oh, cool, okay. They were like, what do you mean? And the biggest, and it wasn't even an issue, right? Because I think ultimately the client wants to sell product, right?
Was this
This is Dettol. This is Dettol. So we went to the Dettol client, had a chat with them, presented it. They loved the work. They appreciated the fact that we were very proactive in doing the stuff. And then they gave us feedback because their process is they have to go through regulatory lawyers to see if this is above board and if we can speak like this. Added to it, they were all vernacular, right? They were all written in Zulu. Our client isn't Zulu. And so there was a lot of explaining that we also had to do to kind of give them an idea of what it is we're actually looking to do, right? So that was also part of the setup. The lawyers looked at it, they gave us some feedback. They're like, no, you can't say this, you have to change this. And then we had to change the ads. I think we had like 2 or 3 changes. Then it was 4 weeks of convincing them to go, hey man, let's go, let's get it done, let's.
Is 4 weeks including the changes from lawyers or that?
No. So the process was done. So that took about 2 weeks with the lawyers till we got to a script that they liked. Then it took about 4 weeks for us to actually go, hey, like let's record this, let's get it done, let's go for it. And because also it's like money conversations, like all of those things. Because we also have to find the right places to flight it because it's Zulu, right? So it's not like you can put it anywhere. There are specific stations that you had to put it. So there were media conversations. So we had tried to have those earlier on so that if they pushed the button and said, cool, green light, then it was easier for us. But I think a lot of the work was convincing them that it was worth their while to do it. We finally got the green light. When we got the green light, costs were approved. Then we had the recording session. I remember, I won't forget this. We went into studio at like 10 in the morning. Left studio at about 4 o'clock the next day in the morning.
Well,
Yeah, our studio time was, I think, was booked to like 5, but because of, if you're going to enter it into Can, right? Like, even the performance and the engineering of it has to be like solid, right? So that this idea lives comes to life in the best way possible, right? So from 10 o'clock in the morning till 4 a.m. the next morning, we were in studio recording, re-recording, asking the VO, Hamilton Dlamini, to read it in certain ways. He was the voice, yeah. And even when we were happy with how he read it, he would be like, no, I can do it better.
Oh, he was
he was also pushing, right? Which is an added advantage, right? Like, and I think the beauty of it is, if you've crafted the script to a degree where the voiceover artist is even intrigued and wants to make sure that they deliver it to their best, that's you've already, like, that's half the hurdle, overcome. And so he's like, no, let me do it again. And we were like, you go for it.
And he went.
He kept going. He ended up sweating.
12?
So 12 to 10, yeah. So it's 12 hours if you look at 10 p.m.
10
and then 12, 13, 14, 15, 16,
7. 12 plus 7 is 9.
Yeah. Yeah, it was intense.
That is what you...
No, it was intense. No, that was legit. It was intense. So after we recorded with him, we then sat with the sound engineer, Lovemore, genius.
Who's the...
Lovemore, yeah. Producer was... Who was our producer? I think it was Benita. Yeah, okay. Yeah. But here we sat, if we didn't have sound effects, we'd go into the studio and make those sound effects and just push it as much as we could, right? Just to craft it. And then finally, like, everything done, sorted. They went out to flight. We got response from the client, because even some of the Zulu speaking clients, in terms of like people who work for Reckitt, when they heard it, they were like, man, this is awesome, right? And I think it just goes to show that when you do creative work, it pays off, right? Because people recognize it, it stands out, then we all know, well, not all of us, I guess, depending on where you're from when you watch this, that the additional work is also crafting the entry video, right? Because you must explain the language, first of all, you must explain the insight, right? And if the insight is specific to a language, you must then explain it to give all of those judges who are listening some context as to what the insight is, the added nuances into the insight, nuances into the language, into pronunciation, into reactions of people. There's a lot of work, excuse me. Yeah. There's a lot of work that goes into laddering up to have someone actually listen to the radio ad and understand it, right? So even though there are translations on there for all of them, like, that work needs to be done. It has to be solid. Even that had like 6 or 7 reverts, right? In terms of the thing, right? So there's a lot of work that goes into it, and it ended up with us shortlisting, right? So which is cool, because the stat within that category, there were 753 entries overall, and then only 53, so like 6-7% of them were shortlisted, right? And then a further, I think only like a 0.1 or something, some weird stat like that. I'm a creative because maths. But only won gold, right? So from the 753, only won gold, right? So to get into that 53, even though we didn't win, is a win because we got recognized enough to go into a place where we could be judged then whether or not we deserve the bronze. And we were fortunate enough to have some of the people who judged later on kind of give us an idea of what we could have done to tighten some of the things up so that it would have converted into metal. Yeah.
So just doing the rough calculation in my head while you're speaking is this easily could have passed through 30 people?
Yeah.
34. And so I want to go backtrack a bit because obviously there's a lot of things that we get spoken about that people are not sure of. So let's go back to the beginning where the genesis of the idea. That's essentially starts from a team which is comprises of a copywriter and art director. They come up with the insight. They think of the idea that how the insight gets portrayed. And obviously sometimes insight can either go as a TV ad or a content piece, but this one, I'm assuming, had lent itself to a Vernac radio ad. Then they would present it to you. You would look at it and finesse.
100%.
So put like knock it here, knock it there, move this here, and then that's where the craft already begins. And then then that goes to Loy. Loyiso is the CCO, which sits above yourself, and you get that go ahead. Then only hold on, sorry.
No, so we had CCO, right? And then we had Brett, right, who for our group is like the overall person in charge of all the creatives. And so we also had reviews with him to tighten things up, just to make it work a lot harder. Also, this is not the traditional process, right? I think there are ideas where you go, cool, I can execute it because it does a standard thing. But there are ideas that when you look at, you go, if I involve a few more people, I can make it better, right? And so there are sometimes those ideas where the team will review with me and will be like, cool, this is cool. You can only push it so far. But you go, this insight's rich, right? So like, let's push it, like let's execute, right? Because also the reality is you can't spend this amount of time on every single thing that you do, right? And so there are there's some of those ideas that you must pick and look at and consider, and you go, this is worth it, and this was one of them.
And parts of your job is to kind of find that diamond in the rough. To like to say, okay, cool, I see something in this, but then you need to now take this baby in front of someone else and say, okay, cool, do you see the same thing? And then they give the green light, you have to go to the next person, which is Brett Morris. He sits above Lloyd. Get that, and that's all internal.
Yes.
That process is just internal. And also, I've got to mention is that this is all proactive. And what proactive means, it's over and above the job that the client requires. Because normally what happens is that clients are like, cool, we'll brief you on this job because it's a problem that we have that we need to solve it. Proactive jobs are out of the blue. We all know this is in advertising. It's above the things they do, but it's a good idea. And normally, because of that, it's out of budget. Which is why you need to
do all the convincing
the Loyiso, the Brett Morris. Because once they are aligned, they'll be like, cool, they will use their title to back this work up.
So we can convince the client.
Okay, cool. Now it's gone through the doors of Brett Morris. Now it's come to client. And in the room, maybe 4 people.
I think 3, 4.
Cool. So then on Dettel's side, which is obviously because it's Beckett Benkiza, they have a few more people who are responsible for the brand. And then they all discuss. They're like, cool. And this is this is the time where it's like it's hectic. For me, this is the hardest part. Is to trying to convince them otherwise, because then you have to explain the insight, the cultural insight, the Vernac insight, and props to you for convincing clients,
dude.
Because I'm sure that was
No, it was.
I'm sure you
it
got a
was,
few wrinkles from that.
Yeah, it was tricky.
But it's tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough. And it's no fault to anyone. It's how you understand the idea
Yeah.
and how it lands. So, okay, cool. So you get that done. I'm thinking it's about, because you said it was like 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
You're looking at about like the 6th week or 7th week that you've got it to clients.
Yeah.
Then client sits with it. And depends on how
And
long
they
they
sat with
take.
it. Hey, they sat with it. I think we needed to remind them almost every Jono, who's the account director, needed to remind them, I think it was twice a week, to the point where I think Loy ended up sending client a message to go, hey.
And that's when you believe in the work.
Yeah.
And you don't really chase up on that if you don't believe in the work. And it's also, again, no fault to anyone. It's just that, because it's not in the eyes for the clients as a paying job, they don't see as important.
Yeah.
Which is, again, no fault to them. But it does require the creative side to say like, cool, because we believe in this job, this is why we're pushing it.
Yeah.
So they sit with maybe another month.
No, yeah, another 2-3 weeks. Yeah, around there. Yeah.
So we're looking at like 8, 9. After that gets approved, then did you still craft it?
Mind you, yeah, because we had the lawyers, right?
Yes, the lawyers.
Mind you, this is also because the plan was to enter it into Cannes, right? So mind you, we're still considering all the flighting that needs to be done. We're still considering the deadlines that are fast approaching, right? So
So when you got the green lights from client from the first presentation, because obviously they would say they like it,
Yeah.
and then they say, cool, let us settle it, and then obviously we'll have to formulate some sort of budget
yeah,
behind the job, and then agency would then also come with a cost
yes,
of how much to make it happen.
Yeah.
And then client again sits with that. To
And then
evaluate
goes, yes,
where's
no.
their time
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And then this becomes the negotiation side of things, especially with producer. But you say like, cool, we've only got X amount, and then like, okay, cool, let's do some favors, and then this is where reputation comes in play. Are you a likable person to work with? The engineers that you work with, are they willing to put in the hours? Like now we know the story. Spoiler alert.
ours was.
18 hours. And then you find the right voiceover artist.
Yes.
And these are essentially stars being aligned to make this happen.
Make it happen.
So, okay, cool. We're sitting at like week 8 or 9. You still had to work with the lawyers, which sets you back another
week.
weeks.
Week and a half, 2 weeks.
Okay, cool. So we're looking at like 11, 12. And then after that, it's like, okay, cool, you've crafted it now. And during this time, obviously, you're not really sitting on your hands. Obviously, you're doing other work.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, all lies. You're doing other work, but then you're organizing things like with media. You're chatting to media. Chatting to who the right people to be on the job.
Yeah.
Where it should be. Back to media is like
What radio stations should be on? Yeah, because also there's a cost implication with all of that flighting. Right?
And if you want to have it widespread, it like Kaya FM would be like huge.
Yeah.
Metro would be even bigger.
Yeah.
And then that also starts to rack up in money. But realistically, if you really want to have like just the award-winning or potentially to be put in front of an award, it can only just have to be funded once.
Yeah, and which is something that we also didn't want to do, right? I think the conversation we had with the client is that this work will be effective. And you'll see that in terms of the bottom line, right? Because I think and this is a thing that we both don't like, right? Where you just flight the thing to flight it. And so a big part of our conversation was, we're doing this and we want you to partner with us to do this so that you can see the equity in creative work that's kind of outside of the norm of the stuff that you do traditionally, right? And so that was a big push for us in terms of also making sure that they bought into it, that they were invested into it, asking the lawyers to also speed up, because there was a point where they were also like, okay, cool, like, hey guys, like send the feedback so that we can get the ball rolling and start to execute the stuff.
That is actually a very clever move, because normally, because realistically, in the real world, practice are very selfish type work. It's for the agency.
It's vanity work sometimes.
It's a vanity, and that's why Z and I have this
Love-hate
idea of awards.
Yeah.
But it is for ourselves, and it is asking clients to pitch in to make the work
Yeah.
happen, because it won't come from agency, it will come from clients. And that's so clever to
Yeah.
have convinced them to say, like, look, it's not just for us, it's also for you.
It's for you.
You can also push brand.
Yeah.
And then in their minds they were like, cool, we have X amounts of money set aside for brand jobs.
Yes.
And that's really good.
Yeah.
So now we've in the time frame of
Like 11, 12 weeks.
with clients who crafted. Now it's time for go. It's
Yeah.
time to record studio. And tell me about the process. So I know it's like 19 hours, but I know that a lot of things have to gel. It's with
Yeah.
you as a CD.
Yeah.
It's obviously your team members have to be there to obviously just how to extract
The best
the
of,
best out of
yeah.
the voice of the
Yeah.
artist. And number one, they have to be collaborative.
Yes.
They have to be, really into the work and understand it, like, because they need to understand what you need to get out of him. And what type of way of delivery, and that can go
Yeah.
out for hours, which
Yeah. No, legit.
the sound engineer, how was he?
He was so. I think I've worked with a lot of sound engineers. Shout out to all of them. I think this was, either my second. No. I lie. It was my first time working with him.
Okay.
It was my first time working with him. And yeah. And I think the biggest thing is there are a lot of sound engineers who pay like great attention to detail, but so does he. But there are like little other things that he thinks of and considers when putting everything together, right? Even in terms of like small things, like how you say a word, like change an inflection on here so that this lands here, so that when this sound effect, no.
Black.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So that when there's a fun,
that makes it easy to communicate.
So that when this sound effect comes in, this is kind of what it sounds like, right? And if he didn't have it, he would go into the booth, or we would go into the booth, and make it, right? And so I think it was, man. If I don't know what the result would have been had we worked with someone else, right? And I'm not dogging anyone else. I'm just going, I think for me, we were fortunate at that time to have someone who was invested to the point where they were even willing to spend the additional time to make it happen.
And
right?
Is that out of his generosity, or is that he had to pay for it?
So we paid for the studio time that we had booked, mm-hmm. and then for the other studio time, he was like, guys, let's push, right? Let's push. And I think it's the case. I mean, it's the case with a lot of other people he's worked with, and even from like because Luriz brings out rankings mm-hmm. of I think he's always in the top there, right? And I think it's because of the fact that he's always willing to push the work, push the creatives to make their work better, because there's always the work that you write, right? The way you envision it. Then someone else comes in who will go, cool, I see what you guys want to do. Let's do this. And that makes it better, right? And I think the stars were aligned when we got both The Voice and Love More to kind of work with to make it work.
I would like to.
Who?
Love More. The
That's his name. So his name is Love. No. Love More is his name. The name of the studio is Aquanote.
Aquanote.
Yeah.
I need to remember that.
Yeah.
So okay, that's a cool name for a studio.
No.
Cool. So then again, That's one piece of the
Yeah.
the puzzle that need to do be
Yeah.
aligned. So tell me about the voice of the actor.
Oh, so obviously, I think when anyone writes the scripts, right, and fortunately for us, because it was radio and like team working, because it was radio, I had two writers. There were two writers working on it, right? It's Tobegani Dlamini, and Tanega Gilbert. Tanega actually judged at Cannes this year.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that. Oh, props to her.
She's our shining star. But so I had the two writers. I had the two writers working on there. So they all think about who they would like to have read the script, right? Or at least the way in which they would like to have read the script. And I think, if I recall, there were a number of options in terms of, oh yes. So there were a number of options in terms of people who we would like to read the script, and he wasn't on there, right? He wasn't on there. Oh no, I think he was, but he was unavailable. So we had chosen other people, and they were not great, right? Like it wasn't.
So what happens?
It wasn't
Do they take a stab at the scripts like they voice note they
Oh no! We called them in because we'll obviously listen to a lot of the audio stuff they do.
Mm-hmm.
So we call them in. We go, cool. I think they'd work. Come through.
call them into like
To the studio, yeah, to record.
And that was before the studio day, I'm sure.
No. This is on the studio day, right? Yeah. Because we listen to a lot of their voices on the different kind of platforms, depending on what agency they're with. They'll have like voice clips of what their performances are, and so we go off of that performance and we go, okay, cool. His voice sounds cool. Let them come through. So the one guy did it, and it didn't work. Hey, like the read was slow. It just didn't have any energy or life. And then we remembered that we had actually thought of him, but didn't suggest him. So we ended up going, yeah, we're going to have to make the call. So we said to the other VO, hey, thank you, we appreciate it. Yeah,
Wait, hold on. I want to understand this. So the day of recording.
Yeah. We had selected. I think,
how many?
So we had selected 3 because we had wanted each one to be read by someone different.
And this was on the same day. So you had candidate number one come in, read the script,
didn't land,
didn't vibe, and then he was like, "Thank you."
Yeah.
And then candidate number 2 came in,
didn't land,
didn't like.
Yeah.
And how long is that process? Like a couple of hours?
Each of them are an hour each. So we're already 3 hours into the recording.
So obviously you had pre-planned houses.
Yeah. So each one of them gets an hour.
Everyone gets an hour. So say for instance, if candidate number 1, if you were vibing with him, he would have stayed.
Yes.
And you would have told the other 2 like, peace. But
oh no. So we had 3 radio ads. Mm-hmm. Each candidate, each VO was going to read one ad each, right? So yeah.
I see.
And so all of them didn't land the way we had envisioned them, right? They didn't land the way we. It was, I think, it was the pace of the read, the energy of the read, and even the buy-in. It's almost like they were doing it to do it, which is fair, right? This is a job
it's like
also.
The convincing part.
Yeah. And so eventually, I think in the 3rd hour, we were like, hey, we're going to have to get someone. We're going to have to get Hamilton in because he wasn't available. Because we thought of him. No, we thought of these 3. Then we thought of him at the end. But then he wasn't available, right? Then we checked again on the day to go, hey man, is he available? And I have no idea how. He was like, oh yeah. No, I'm around. I can be there in an hour, right? And we're like, for real? He's like, yeah. And we're like, come through. So he comes through. Mind you, we're 3 hours in.
Pause on this. So I'm just thinking of your thought patterns. Yeah. So you've recorded 3 people.
Yeah.
You weren't vibing.
None of it.
You must be
none of it.
You must be distressed.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like you've put all this effort, you've got to this point.
You spend clients' money,
clients
right?
behind you.
Yeah.
You've got all these, you got Brett Morris, you've got
Yes.
Loy behind you.
Yeah.
Then
And we spent the money because obviously each of these voices must be paid for their performance, right? So even if it doesn't flight, the fact that they were there for an hour means that they must be paid for that hour of performance.
Hamilton says, "Yo,
Then he goes, yeah, I'm around. If you need me, I can come through. Send me the address. Yeah, and so he shows up.
have you worked with him before?"
No, I haven't worked with him.
Okay.
He shows up. Toby goes out to go brief him as to what the read is. He's excited, and I think for us that was kind of like the first showing that it was going to be a good session, right? Because the voiceover artist's excited. So he's like, "Oh yeah, I like it." What helped is his surname is also Dlamini, right? So Toby's surname is also Dlamini. So they were like, Dlamini gang.
Obviously, Z exciting him up.
So he gets into the studio. We do the first take. He's just getting a feel of it, and it already. So even though he's just still getting a feel of it, it feels good already, right? And the longer he goes, he gets the beats, right? He's like, okay, cool. Can I say this instead of this? Can I do that instead of that? We're like, go for it, right? And all of that, you're like, oh, okay.
And
okay.
this is not rewriting script. This is just punching the
Yeah. Punching, hitting the right notes, making sure that everything kind of lands where it needs to land. And I think the beauty of working for that 13, 14 weeks to get the script to a place that's perfect, right? Makes it even easier in studio, right? Where you're not making those small tweaks. Sometimes you might have to. Fortunately for us, we didn't have to. So he hit all those notes, changed things up where he felt like they needed to change up. Lovemore is sitting there by the buttons, and he's like, yeah, do this.
and what they call this when that happens, it's called a flow state.
Yeah. It was
Everyone
legit.
is just connected.
Proper.
That for
Proper.
me is probably one of the highlights of my career.
Yeah.
Like to see that happen.
Yeah.
Just and to be a part of it.
And to realize, right? Because here's the thing: we knew it was late, but it didn't feel like it was late,
no.
right?
No
because
way. We knew it was having fun.
exactly.
So I wanted to ask. So when he came in, what time was that in the day?
That was, I think, 1 o'clock.
How?
No. So 10, it was 11, 12, 1, 2, at about 2, 2:30. 2:30.
Poor Hamilton was in that studio
So
for
he
like
sat.
10 hours.
No. So he sat with us in the studio for about 3.5 hours,
Okay.
right?
Oh, and then it's the craft.
Yes. Then we still had to do the edits, choose the music, choose the sound effects, clean up all of that stuff. So he was in there with us for about 3.5 to 4 hours. Just
And that was, so you said there was 3 different radio ads.
Yeah.
Did he do all 3?
he did all 3. He ended up doing we ended up doing all 3 with him.
I always wanted to ask you this, and even when we were in studio
Yeah.
and stuff, how do you, because you've heard it so many
Yeah.
times, you've heard it deliver in so many different ways. What about it that makes you like, okay, cool, we've got it now, or don't carry on?
Yeah. I think there's always that moment when you write it where you know what it should sound like, right? And that sets the base. Like if I can get it here, that's great, right? And obviously, I think a big thing, I think for any creator, and I mean, it's the same when you think about a TVC, right? You go, this is where I envision it, and that's the base. Then you brief the director, and then they just take it up a notch, right? And that's the beauty of creative, is like people are always trying to work to make the work better. And so it's always going, this is the base. This is kind of where I see it. This is kind of where, this is the world where it feels like it would be rad. And I think having had it for 13 weeks, having had chats with Toby and Thandeka, we kind of got to a place where we understood what we wanted it to sound like. And when we all heard Hamilton, I think it was like the third or I lie. the 6th or the 7th take that he took of the first script, it was just like, yeah, that's the one. Like that's like we all came here. Like if we left with that read, we'd be happy, right? And he was like, cool, I can give you a better one. And then he went and he's like, oh, you're like, whoa, okay. We didn't think we would get like that good. And then he's like, cool, can I change this? And then he did that and it was just boom. Then Love More would be like, yeah, add this, boom. Then Tanega and Toby would be like, oh snap, since you did this, can we do this? And then it would be boom. Then Loy would be like, okay, do that and do this, and then boom. And then we go, cool. Love More, can you add something here? And then he was able to, and then it just kept getting better and better, right? And so you're now going off of the energy of that first one. Mm-hmm. So when you jump into the second and the third, it's easier, right? Okay. So those two, because the first one was the big one, because we now set a place where, okay, this is what it sounds like at its peak, right? Like at its best. And so 2 and 3 were then easier to do because now everyone had an idea of what the best version of it could sound like. And so we knocked those out. I think he did 6 or 7 takes of the second one, and then 5 or 6 of the third one. And then we were like, this is gold. This is it. This is now, mind you, we're at like 5, 6 o'clock, right? And the studio time we booked is done now, right? So now we're going, okay, how do we craft?
So I'm assuming at this point, because you're vibing with Love More, it didn't feel like it was a tough decision to open up, like, or conversation to open up. Like, yo, it's this time.
Yeah.
What now?
Oh. And he was even I think even before we started to have chats, because a big part of it is we also had to have chats with the producer to go, hey, listen, we need more studio time, right? She'll figure it out here and there, like how we do all of those things, because creatives do that, right? We just make it the producer's problem. Yeah, take care of that.
Make up
and she worked it. I mean, I don't know how she did it, but she did a thing, right? But even before that, Love More was like, guys, if we need to get it done, let's go, right? Let's go. Because also what you don't want is to leave it, because the energy won't be the same when you come back to get it done, right? No, you're in that room at that moment. So let's go. So we went, got it, boom, 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 knocked it out. He did his magic. And I remember it's like 2 o'clock. And then you're like, yeah, no, this is it.
2 o'clock in the Yes, you guys must be like, I'm sure you were thriving on adrenaline.
Yeah, no, legit.
Because it's the hyping each other up, the passion.
Yeah.
That's
No. That was adrenaline. That's why I was like, even us listening to it when Hamilton wasn't there, and having him and having Love More small space, like space it out here.
That's
Yeah. It's like just space it out here so that this lands here. Like now we're in a place where we're going, cool. How do we make it better? Right. I mean, we've already spent like 7, 8, 9 hours working to make it better. So why not just go full throttle and just make every part of it better? Yeah, man.
Okay, cool. So I'll speed up the timeline a bit. So if you get it made, Love More produces it. Now it's you ship it off to the media houses. They start distributing to different places. And then it's now flighted.
Yeah.
That gives you a flighting code, which then allows you to start entering it into awards. Yeah. Did you guys enter for Luries?
We did enter for Luries.
That's for this year's Luries.
No, last year.
Last year
we won. Oh gosh, I can't remember. We won. I think we won Craft
Gold,
Craft Silver, and Craft Bronze.
That's great. That's still
and then we won. No, what else? I think and then we won I can't remember. I have to ask the team.
Was it not also nominated for was Clio's or
I can't remember.
it was another international one.
Yeah, I can't remember. All the awards for me, once the work is done, I try to step away from, because it all gives me anxiety, right? Because I'm like, I don't like the desire built around it is something that I'm still trying to fall in love with. I think what I appreciate about it is recognizing that there were people who thought of an idea, put it down, made it work, and this is where it's at, right? That's what I love. So whenever it goes out, I try my best to remove myself from it, right? So that I'm not hit with the anxiety and the nervousness and just like.
I know what you're talking about. So when you, upon entering an award, you need to show the judges the work best presented, and that's his way of a case study video. Which is something that I love. I love watching them. It's just you can be inspired in 2 minutes. Which is what I love, and then I get addicted because then you stop watching another. You're like, it feels like another part of your brain is just like opened up. But to craft that video needs to, number one, your idea is obviously the biggest thing, and how it's delivered. So the crappy thing about South African radio or most Vernac radio is that you need to explain the nuances, especially cultural nuances, and then you get. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like vernacular nuances. Like it's the way you say this and it means that and it sounds like this. That kind of gives it the pun to that. And
so you go, this is South Africa, so the context of South Africa, the context then of the language Zulu in South Africa, then the context of, and each of them will be different, right, for each radio ad, because even though the insight's the same, the execution requires a different explanation for all three of them, right? And so you're basically rewriting your case study video for the specific radio ad, right? And it's so layered and so in depth because you have to make sure that at the end, when the Portuguese and the French guy and the American guy and the British guy look at it and watch it and read the subtitles, they've got like a clear idea of the insight and why the concept is so strong, right?
And shame, like I don't know what those judges go through, but again, they come from different parts of the world, and they sit and they listen to, like you're saying,
753.
They have to go. I'm sure there's some sort of sifting
yes,
process that they go through, but they still have. Let's just say 200. Just even saying shortlist, they need to go through every single one. They need to understand it. You're not in the room to present your work.
Yes.
The video, your 2-minute
does
video,
all of that
is supposed to do everything it needs to understand and love the idea, which is again an extra hurdle on its own.
Yeah, it's in and of itself is an art. It's its own creative. Form, right? Because if you don't, regardless of how good your idea is, if you don't explain it well, then it doesn't go in. Right,
yes.
like it
won't be. So having said that, in this judging process, that your back's against the wall already, because we're from South Africa, a teeny country from like bottom of the earth. You've got a language barrier, you've got a nuance barrier, and it's radio. You have to read subtitles, and the fact that you got these accolades.
Yeah, dude.
Well done, man.
Like it's
that is
man.
It's a lot to be proud of. But so I think it's a bit early to ask, but like, because my next question would have been like, what has it done for your career? And it's a bit too early to say maybe, but maybe it will do something for the team that generate the idea. It probably does put McCann in a better light
100%
in South Africa.
100%.
I mean, you guys were ranked 8th in
just from that and Lurie's, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's all I can't even count the amount of hours you've put
in.
Like let's just say 3 months of work to get a proactive thing from off the ground to get it made delivered, and that's excluding the fact of the amount of additional hours you have to put in, to enter to awards, to get recognized for it. That's cool.
Yeah.
That is serious.
Yeah, dude. And I think for me, it's just one of those, right? I think for, not just for myself, even for the team, like the recognition, and just for people to see your ability, right, to do creative work. I think for me, that's like, that's number one. It's even from an agency perspective, right? Because I think only when I became it was only when I became a creative director did I realize and fully understand the importance of creative for the business, right? Outside of the individual, for the business, because what it does is it also allows you to have even more credibility when you speak to your client. They're more inclined to listen. So for example, with this radio ad now, with this set of radio ads, Dettol at the end of the year was number one in soap and disinfectant liquid, right?
Just because you guys had
just because we had something that was out of the norm, coupled with all the other traditional stuff that we did, yielded business results, right? And so again, it comes back to that thing that we said to them to go, we're not just doing this for the sake of doing it. We're doing it so that there's a business benefit for you at the end. So they sold, I mean, they were number one from a product standpoint. One of the clients was also recognized as as I think top 13 or top 20 marketers, right? So already that's given him an appetite for even more creative work, right?
And that kind of leaves you for more doors.
100%.
And also have conversations. Like, next time you come with a proactive idea, it's not like reserved. It's more like they lean in. They're intrigued to hear what you have to say.
And they're interested now because they realize that creative is not for creative's sake. Creative is for the benefit of the overall business, right? And for me, that's why when we look at Can that way, when we go, the work that we're putting in is real work, it's effective work, it's work that actually speaks to the rands and cents of the client. Yes, to a degree, it's almost like a vanity product because it's proactive. You go, I want to express my creative ability, right? But you're doing it for the benefit of the business, right? And because it benefits their business, it benefits the agency business. You can go out now and go, hey, this is an agency that's done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and people are willing to listen, right? I think for me, that's where the benefit of awards come in, to just show ability and capability, but also it shows that the work that we do as creatives is effective, right? And that creative can have a positive impact or result for any business. And so that's where I've kind of, and it took me being a CD to get to that point, right? Because when you're removed from that and you're just slogging and you're doing the work, you don't have that face-to-face time with clients. Now I sit with the clients. They tell me what they want. They tell me this is where I want to be. They tell me this is what this did for us, right? So you're more aware of all of those things within the context of those meetings. So it's now the drive to be able to do that for them through creative is greater than when I was a normal copywriter.
And that gives you a win-win situation.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time it becomes very, it's hard to go to do the work that creators can't do. Yes, we do need to do the stuff that keeps the lights on, but to give creators that drive, it's doing those type of work. And I think you probably put it the best way possible. All the assumptions we had before looking at awards. That's why, this is why hence this podcast.
Yeah.
Because we also learning, we have a opinion of awards, but there is some good in it. I think if you use it right, it's a malleable thing. Ideas are malleable. Awards is opinionated. Creative is opinionated. Because then now we know where we stand.
Yeah.
So I see that the time's up, but there's still more that I want to chat to you about. There's a limit of time, but this is the type of thing that we'd like to speak about, and also to give you to bring you into the perspective of advertising and what gets involved.
Yeah.
How it's from our perspective, so it's it's from our experience, through our eyes. So like to at some point speak to more people, just to give a clearer picture of what advertising mostly about.
And the work that goes into it, that process, the results, and all of that stuff.
And hopefully, we'd like to drop, and hopefully in this conversation, we've dropped a few nuggets, what's important. And that's kind of things get taught in school.
Yeah.
So yes, so this is, I know that there's a whole but we definitely can do that in a later stage.
Yeah.
And I hope we can get more time with you.
Defos. I'll make more time. Thanks, guys. Cheers. That was dope. I love it.
So yeah, that's basically it.